Hello again, my resin monkeys. I've heard your cries, and I am now delivering what many of you wanted for a long time, the long overdue video work in progress. Most of you might remember that I mentioned one time that I tend to upload only things that I haven't really touched before in videos. Because I think, in my mind, if I upload a lot of video tutorials with the same thing over and over, it will be boring. So this time I have been working on a very interesting kit per se. Interesting not only because of the scale, but because of all the problems and issues this kit has. I understand that this is a very popular figure in the Sailor Moon collectors community, especially because it's very rare to find already painted. However, E2046 has had this kit for many years now. I have never had it in person until now that a friend commissioned it to me. I encountered the worst nightmare in all my time in GK building. If I thought Velvet and Pure Peach was a difficult kit, this one just tells me move over. I'm next. Let me back up a bit on this and explain why this kit is so f***ed up. Around 2008, E got this kit through their Share a Kit program. Member Imram from the UK was happy to share his kit, so E took it and started to make recasts. But something that E never took the time to check was if the parts fit or if they even were from the correct figure. Where am I going with this? When Monsieur Baum sculpted this kit, he made two versions. The first version was the GK one. This version had her pigtails floating in the air to her sides. The second version came out a little later, but it was a cold cast, meaning that it was made in limited quantities and already painted in the box. I don't know what the hell happened with this person, but he either had both versions and took them apart, or he got it like that already. Parts of both figures were mixed in the kit that E sold, resulting in having extra parts. This included an extra back bow and two extra pigtails. Many of them didn't even have the correct fitting, something I will show in a bit. Even though this kit had the option of choosing how you wanted the hair, either up or down, it's still f***ed up in many ways.
I don't want one position, I want all positions!
What surprised me even more was all the damn people that purchased her and never even mention all the problems and issues with this kit. Did all of them have brain farts at the moment when leaving feedback for this kit? Were they too lazy to check the parts? What the hell happened? And by the way, this is another thing that pisses me off about people who purchase at E. When it comes to feedback on a figure, comments like these, or even these, do not help other buyers with their decisions before purchasing the damn thing. And it's not only this figure, it's on all the figures. People, when you purchase something like a garage kit, you want to leave helpful feedback on something you purchase so other people can see what they're getting into. Check the fitting, check the gaps, the quality of the cast. For God's sakes, check if there are any errors on it. Saying, thank you, nice packing, doesn't help in my decision for purchase. So I took it to myself to leave the first wall of text with all the good and the bad points of this kit. The first ever person to actually point out all the crappy things with this kit. Needless to say, E noticed my feedback and replied back saying that they were going to check the kit and remove the extra parts that did not belong to the figure. Well, that included working on the skirt as it was not the correct one. Again, I'll show you why in a bit. It was funny that a few days after I had posted my feedback, they decided to offer the figure as part of their gathering line. So I guess once they decided to correct the pieces, they should also offer it as a pre-painted figure while they're at it. So for those of you interested in getting the gathering version, you're welcome. If it weren't for me, you would not be getting it. So after my little rant, which I am sorry if it came out too intense, let me show you what I got myself into with this kit. When I started to work on it, I just checked the fitting. The pieces that did belong together were just fine. The figure itself is huge, and this is a comparison of a 1/8 scale Sailor Moon figure against the huge head of the other one. This is the pigtail that does fit on the head. As you can see, they have identical connections. So that's good. These pieces are part of the original GK. However, this other set of pigtails belongs to the cold cast. they have different connections that don't belong to this head. So instead of drilling and carving the connection on the head, I'll just use the other one. Skirt, however, does not belong to this kit. As you can see, it has absolutely no connections to be able to attach the tails, and this will be a pain in the ass, literally. There's not much to say about the legs. They do belong to her bottom, but they need some tweaking so that it will stay connected to the panty securely. I'm just making a line on both sides of the connection so that I can drill in later. This is so I can add putty and make connection guides. I'm using my Dremel round tip engraver to be able to carve into that resin. I have shown this technique in the past, so this is just a repeat of what you already seen before. I do the same to the panty side, but I'm also carving in more connection gears, you might say. That way it won't swivel. These pieces are very heavy, so they will need extra support. Once done with that, I go ahead and putty the regular pinholes I use to be able to pin in the pieces together for an exact fit. Again, this is something I have shown in the past on how to do it, so please check my other videos for reference. Next is the putty to eliminate the gaps and to create those connection guides on the other sides of the pieces. I tend to add a generous amount of pressure so that the putty inside can fill all those little areas where I made the connection guides. All set, it's now time to leave them curing and come back the next day. Okay, so for now the figure is partially pinned, at least the main areas. Her bow tails are going to be the pinnacle of my problems with this kit. As you can see, the skirt also has a huge gap between the torso, so that will also need some heavy putty work right there. Closing the gap on the skirt will take 2 sessions. The first one is visible here. I had to add putty base to the area I needed to correct. As you can see, it's still fairly large. This is the second time around I'm adding more putty to the skirt so that I can close that gap, adding putty all around the waistline. Again, remember adding a generous amount of pressure so that the torso can connect all the way in with the pins and have that putty stay in place. There are still some areas with gaps, so I need to add more putty to that area and semi-sculpt it. It doesn't need to be perfect as it will be sanded off later. I am now working on the area where I will need to sculpt those connections to be able to attach those tails to her skirt. Being that this is such a big kit, it's rather difficult to do, as you can see. At this point I had to build it up slowly and it took several tries to get it right. I had to start over again like 2 times because the tails were so heavy that when marking the area they would not stay in place and they would slip all over the place. And this is how it ended up. The rough areas will be sanded and corrected, but after a couple of weeks I was able to finish this horrible nightmare. This area of the tail had to have some more putty to be able to have better support, as well as resculpting the top where it now connects to the skirt. It's okay if the putty isn't clear, as it will be painted in a way that it will be concealed, but the piece will still maintain the transparent effect on the rest of the area. The pigtails need large and long pins to be able to connect to the head. They are quite heavy, and once you connect the second part of the hair, it's even heavier. My friend asked me to modify the direction of the hair as he wanted her to look different than the other 2 versions. So what I'm going to do is switch the left pigtail with the right pigtail and modify the right pigtail so it can go up but with direction to her back instead of her side. Now to connect the strand of hair to the dongo. Once it's glued and puttied, I can now connect the second part of the hair. Attaching the 2 pieces requires a lot of putty for more support as well as pins, so this is exactly what I'm doing at this point. Also, in order to keep them in place, I need to secure them with some tape while it cures. Once it hardens, I still need to add more putty to resculpt the area where it connected, so it won't look strange like this. Again, using my round carving tip, I do this so that the putty will have more area to stick to and to close that small remaining gap between the two pieces. More putty is added to resculpt the area. Like I said before, it doesn't need to be perfect as it will be sanded later. The spiral heart moon rod is okay, but I decided to use a real gem on this piece instead of having to paint it silver or something around that line. I'm taking my round carving tip and removing the resin so that the little gem can fit into place. Alright, it's all set. I am now testing to see if it fits in the rod. And as you can see, it fits just perfectly. All done with everything after several months of prep. Now it's just a matter of priming the pieces, which I have already done at this moment when you're actually watching this video. So part 2 should be up in a few weeks. I'll be painting this kit like the manga version, so it's also going to be a fun video. I just need to show all of you that have purchased this kit from E the type of work you will be required to do, and maybe this way you'll be able to have an idea on how to achieve it. Now, to my understanding, they have already begun in correcting these pieces, so I'm pretty sure that if you purchase the kit after you see this video, you won't have to deal with this type of crap. Again, you're welcome. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't. I have a lot of Moony love. In case all of you are wondering if I do more Sailor Moon kits, give your thumbs up showing that you loved it and that you want to see part 2 soon. And if you're that little sad troll or trollette that lurks around in my channel giving the single thumbs down on my videos, I wouldn't be surprised if I see you here too. But you know what? I'm also sending you a big hug, because even trolls need love. And before I go, I want to let you guys know that I have started a new podcast series with a good friend of mine. Her name is Sarah Phoenix. You can download the audio track for free or stream it. We're talking about everything GK related. We will be touching a lot of things. Many are topics that I don't exactly talk about in my videos. So if you're doing your commute, working, doing your homework, or just relaxing, listen to us ramble about the GK world and have a few laughs with us too. We are totally uncensored, unscripted, and all real. The link to our podcast channel is in the description area below. Until next time, my Arisen Monkeys.